Good morning and welcome to Bible Truth for Kids. Today we're going to be talking about a mighty angel and two witnesses. Last time we were together, we saw that all 6 trumpet judgments have taken place. And now there's a pause between the 6th and the 7th judgment. You know, these pauses that we find in Revelation are opportunities that God takes to comfort and encourage the believers who are living through all of the judgments that they are surrounded by. He's assuring them that he has not forgotten them. He is still on the throne and his kingdom is coming. Now, as John looked, he saw a mighty angel descend from heaven. Now, we know that God created magnificent angels, and I don't know what else to tell you about this angel except that he was huge. You know, look at the size of him compared to John. The angel was wrapped in clouds, which means judgment, but all around his head was a beautiful rainbow. The rainbow always speaks of God's faithfulness and his mercy. You know, the rainbow belongs to God alone, no one else. The rainbow will be a reminder to his people, the believers, that he is going to show them mercy and compassion in the judgments that are still to come. Now, John said that his face was so bright, it was blazing like the sun. It lit up the whole earth. And his legs and his feet were like pillars of fire. One was on the land, one was on the sea. And in his hand, there was a little scroll. And then the angel cried out with a voice like that of a lion. And in response, there were 7 peals of thunder that uttered their voices. So it wasn't just thunder, it was voices. And you know, John, he got out his book. He got ready to write down what he heard. But then there was a voice from heaven that said, don't write down anything that you heard. Nothing. Not what they said, not what you heard. And so, you know, those are the only words in Revelation that are sealed up. We don't know what was said. The fact that it was loud thunder would lead us to believe they were crying out for vengeance and judgment, but we just don't know. And then a voice from heaven said to John, go and take that scroll, the open scroll from the angel. You see the one he's holding in his hand there? So John went and took it. And when he did, the angel told him to eat it. He said to him, it's going to taste sweet in your mouth, but in your stomach, you're going to feel sick. You know, this is a picture to us of how we should respond to God's judgments. The sweetness is that Jesus is going to take back what is rightfully his. He's going to bring his kingdom and we're going to reign with him. But the part that makes us feel sick is when we realize the terrible doom that faces unbelievers who will not turn away from their sin. So the little scroll that John ate was called bittersweet. When something is happy and sad at the same time, we say it's bittersweet. So that was what it was like when John ate that little scroll. Now in the second part of the pause, we see 2 fearless witnesses that are sent by God. And these witnesses have an assignment. For the 3.5 years that are left in this time of trouble, they are going to be preaching. They are going to be talking about God's final judgment and urging people to turn away from their sin, especially the people of God, Israel. But they're also going to be declaring to the whole world that all of these disasters that are happening around them are judgments from God. Now, these witnesses that are sent by God, they're sent from heaven by God, but they're not angels. They are men. And we don't know what their names are because we're not told. But you know what it tells me? It tells me that, you know, when we get to heaven, we're not just going to be sitting around. God has work for us to do. Imagine if this was your assignment, to go back to earth for this special time. Now, John's been told that there's more to write down. Don't close up your book. There is lots to come. Now, John tells us that these witnesses were dressed in sackcloth. So sackcloth is a very rough, coarse material that people wore in ancient times, and they wore it to express really deep sorrow for something. And you know, the witnesses are going to be wearing this because it's an object lesson to us. They are showing how sorrowful they feel against an unbelieving world. Now, are people going to realize that? Not likely. Perhaps the people of Israel, God's people, they'll remember that ancient people used to do that. But I think for most people, they're going to think that these witnesses are kind of weird. And, you know, what are they doing? Wearing a costume or something? Now, these witnesses have miraculous powers from God. You know, if anyone comes against them to harm them, fire comes out of their mouth and kills them. God is not letting anything stop the preaching of these two witnesses. You risk your life if you approach them in any way to harm them. Well, they've got power to shut up the skies so that it doesn't rain. They have got power over the waters to turn them to blood. They can strike the earth with every kind of plague anytime they want to. Now, these two witnesses are going to just create havoc while they're here preaching. I mean, it's going to increase the torment of the believers that are here. I mean, they're going to be feared and they're going to be hated. Now, you might not think that, you know, God is showing mercy and compassion to unbelievers when he does this, when these witnesses are causing so much havoc. But you know, the unbelievers, they are not listening. It's like they're deaf. And God is providing an opportunity, one last chance for them to wake up. Listen, time is running out. Very soon there will be no more opportunity to turn away from their sin, and they will face everlasting punishment. God does not want that. So for 3.5 years, these fearless witnesses are preaching. No one can harm them until the time is up. Now, do you remember in the very first seal judgment, the Antichrist came onto the scene? Now, the Antichrist at this point, he has become a world leader and he demands to be worshipped. Now, he is a man, but he has demonic power given to him from the abyss, and he's called the Beast. And after the 3.5 years is up, he overcomes the witnesses and he kills them. And then after they have died, they take their bodies and they put them in the middle of the street, lying there like rotting corpses, for all of the people to walk by and see and gloat over. You know, this is the most disgraceful and disrespecting thing that they could do. Nobody is allowed to bury them. Nobody. You know, the death of these witnesses is going to cause wild celebrations all over the world because they're dead. And you know, the Bible tells us that people from every nation, every language, every tribe is going to see their dead bodies on the ground. You know how that's going to happen? People are going to be recording it on their phones. TV cameras are going to be taking it in. So everybody in the world will see these witnesses dead on the ground rotting. I mean, they know who the witnesses are. Now, they are going to declare Happy Dead Witness Day. And they are going to be celebrating in the streets. They're dead. They're going to party in the streets. They're going to party in their houses. And they are going to exchange gifts with one another. Nothing can make them happier than the fact that these witnesses are now dead. But you know, 3 days later, God breathes into them the breath of life and they stand up. Now everybody's terrified, but their phones are out. They're recording it. And a voice says, "Come up here." And the two witnesses go up in the clouds into heaven. And it's all caught on people's phones, cameras. You know, this is going to be replayed over and over and over again. But incredibly, the hearts of the unbelievers, they don't change. They still do not believe. You know, the fact that they don't believe proves that the Bible is true. You know, in Luke 16:31, it says, you know, if they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, they won't be convinced even if somebody rises from the dead. So even those two resurrected witnesses don't convince them. Now, at the same hour that the witnesses go up to heaven, there is a huge earthquake in Jerusalem, and 1/10 of the city falls, and 7,000 people die. You know, this brings us to the end of the pause. The 7th trumpet is just about to be sounded. Why don't people turn away from their sin and follow after God? He has given them opportunity after opportunity. But when this 7th trumpet sounds, that marks the puts in motion the final events that are going to take place just before Jesus returns to earth to set up his kingdom. So next week, we'll see what the first event is after the 7th trumpet is sounded. So we'll see it then.